I am so confused. What has happened to Air India? In some ways, I feel like Middle Eastern airlines need to stop worrying about Riyadh Air and look east instead because Air India is not playing around. On the other hand, the experience is still distinctly Air India in all the wrong ways. From a 5-hour delay with no refreshments or goodwill gestures to crew lying about meals, I can't say Air India's A350 business class is my fave. As a full-time airline reviewer specializing in premium cabins who's flown over 160 airlines, Air India is an airline to watch and an airline that should make any major connector concerned over the next few decades. Today's adventure will take us on a 10-hour flight from Delhi to London. Why so long? Because we are navigating around Pakistani airspace due to the conflict in early May. This means our flight, like all flights from India to the West, is delayed by a lot. Well, good evening, guys. I am here very early at Delhi Airport because I just arrived from Singapore on Singapore Qsuite and I managed to have a seamless transfer, the most seamless transfer by far I've had in India. I was expecting them to refuse to print my boarding pass. I didn't have my onboard boarding pass to London and that has created problems before. But I have a transit hotel booking. I don't have to clear immigration and you know all the issues that come with that. And to my surprise, within literally 20 seconds, the boarding pass was printed. So I'm here, it's 8 p.m. and my connection tomorrow was supposed to leave at 6:45, now delayed to 9:30, which is not great. But at the moment, it's the beginning of May. There are obviously some geopolitical issues here that, I understand the flight is delayed, but that gives me over 12 hours here in Delhi. So not only am I gonna get 8 hours of nice sleep, but I am gonna enjoy the Encalm Privé lounge, Privé, whatever you wanna call it, to the max. Tonight I'm staying at the Holiday Inn Express inside the airport where I've stayed before. It is incredibly expensive, but incredibly convenient. Air India is using the Encalm Privé lounge here in Delhi for all its passengers, which must be quite expensive for them while they renovate their own lounges. Because of that, the Encalm Privé lounge gets extremely crowded, but even so, I don't think I've ever visited a lounge with so many amenities. Where do we even start? There's the main buffet area, which has so much food, but is way too crowded to the point where I literally can't record here today. Next, we have the area with sleeping pods. These are about 1100 rupees per hour before GST. There are also full-on bedrooms for about 5,000 rupees per person per 3-hour block. Definitely not cheap. One thing I love though is that they have massages. By Indian standards, these prices must be equivalent to getting a gold-plated 6-handed massage at the Burj Al Arab, but by airport standards, the rates really aren't that bad. After a long travel day, I cannot resist. So I just had a lovely 45-minute neck, head and shoulder massage, paid $41 for it, but I tipped 10 because it was awesome. What a nice way to relax after one flight and prepare for the next. And now all I had to do was hop in the elevator and go straight 2 floors up to my hotel, where I'm excited to get some sleep.
8 hours later.
I drag myself out of bed just as our A350 is landing from London. This is not a good sign, but I'm trying to practice going with the flow more, leaning in, relaxing, and accepting whatever comes my way. A massive delay is not ideal, but if you fly enough, it's bound to happen sooner or later, and let's be honest, especially on Air India. However, I think pretty much any other airline would handle a delay like this far better. More on that later in the video. All right, good morning. Look who's here. Hey.
Woo, made it.
Finally. So we are heading to the gate now. Or actually, we're gonna head to have breakfast first because the hotel breakfast wasn't that appealing. We've already been to the lounge, so let's check out the restaurant. Our flight is now delayed to 10:30 from 6:45. So I'm curious to find out why our flight is this delayed, because Virgin and BA, who also operate this route, are running with delays of about 1.5 hours or 2 hours. Now we are up to 5 hours, so our new departure time is 11:15. But what's funny is that on the departure board, we were looking for our flight and we couldn't find it anywhere. And then it's like London, 6:10 a.m. with our flight number, and we're like, that wasn't even the original departure time. Where did they get that from?
I mean, that's so funny because like they're basically making it seem even more delayed than it actually is.
Yeah.
Because the original time was 6:45, so it's like you're making it worse for yourselves.
We are about to hop on board the Air India A350, their new flagship. So what you're about to see is truly Air India's best. This is the equivalent of their Qsuite or their A&E The Room. Let's check out the seat maps so you know what to expect. So this is the Air India A350, except it's not the real Air India A350. What the heck do I mean? Well, this airplane was supposed to be delivered to Aeroflot before Russia invaded Ukraine. Due to sanctions, there ended up being a bunch of homeless A350s, and two airlines, Air India and Turkish Airlines, said, "We'll take those, thank you very much." That is how Air India ended up with a small fleet of A350s way before they were originally supposed to receive any. That also means that these planes have Aeroflot's original cabins, not Air India's upcoming cabins. This Aeroflot/Air India hybrid has 28 business class seats spread across 7 rows. Specifically, these are Collins Aerospace Horizon seats that alternate between being closer to the window and, of course, closer to the aisle. I'm in 7 Alpha today, the last row, as I always prefer, and although I'm closer to the aisle than the even-numbered rows, I do not mind at all. In the middle, odd-numbered rows let you sit closer to your companion, so I recommend those if you don't want to sit by the windows and you want to sit close to someone else. There are a total of 2 lavatories for the 28 of us. That's a lavatory ratio of 1 to 14. Not great, but not bad. Getting my last few steps in before sitting down for most of the coming 11 hours. Wow, what a cabin! Welcome to 7 Alpha, my home for the next 10 to 11 hours, and your home for the next 10 to 15 minutes. A first impression can make or break your flight, or at least greatly color your overall impression of what happens throughout the rest of the flight. Well, today, Air India leaves a near perfect first impression. A pre-departure drink served on an elegant paper coaster? Check. A choice between a hot or cold towel? Check. Making it feel like Christmas by handing out a ton of amenities? Check. The crew hand out these stunning amenity kits and pajamas. We don't have to wait too long after boarding, and at 11:08 a.m., 4.5 hours behind schedule, we push back. Hopefully Air India can sort out its A350 operations, because one thing that the Pakistani airspace closure has demonstrated is that Air India does not have enough margin of error for its A350 operations. They are simply scheduled too tight. One delay can lead to days of problems. I mean, it is impressive how adamant they are about not swapping equipment to, say, a 787, but at a certain point, passengers prefer to be on time rather than waiting 5 hours just to sit in the seat type they booked. As we taxi out, a massive storm pops up out of nowhere, but finally at 11:50, we start our takeoff roll, 5 hours behind schedule. You know, when I first started dreaming of flying around on the world's best airlines full time, it felt so far out of reach. I spent years learning, building this channel, and finding ways to turn my passion into something more. And now one of the things I am most grateful for is the freedom that comes with that. I know that freedom is not very easy to come by, so that is why I am so excited to tell you about something that can help you take a really meaningful first step toward that. Today's video is sponsored by 1010, a beginner-friendly online education platform that helps people with no experience get jobs in tech. With 1010, you will get support from professional coaches and get real-world experience by working on projects with real companies. 82% of 1010 graduates get hired within 6 months of completing their programs, And guess what the median salary is? $70,000 a year. And guess what? 1010 even offers a get a job or get 100% of your money back guarantee. Most importantly, you will gain skills that AI will not be able to replace, so you can feel confident in your new job for decades to come. Start learning a new job from $200 a month. Click the link at the top of the description or scan the QR code right here for a free career consultation. All right, we are off finally. We had a pretty excruciating 45-minute taxi, which when you're already 5 hours delayed, every minute feels like it counts a lot. There were only 3 aircraft in front of us, but for some reason, even before the rain came in, they were spacing out the departures by like 8 minutes each. So after one aircraft took off, you were just waiting for ages for the next one to take off. And I was sitting there on Flight Radar like, come on, let's go. Anyway, now we're settled in. And guys, I closed the door. You see how it closes the whole way, unlike so many business class doors, which sort of leave a gap for whatever reason. See how high the walls are? I mean, there is so much to love about this seat. And frankly, on first impression, I feel like this is very comparable to Qsuite, if not better in some ways. Let me explain exactly why and how as I show you around. The most unusual thing about this seat is the wall and door height, which truly rivals Qsuite. It's so difficult to convey over video how this compares to other similar looking seats, but I think this shot offers the best illustration. This is taken from my eye level. Notice how you can't see anyone? How the cabin might as well be empty? In other cabins with walls and doors, you stand up and you see everyone. The other very impressive thing is the unreal amount of storage. Not only do we have the usual suspects, a surface to our side and a closing compartment above it, but we also have quite a large locker below our armrest that houses our slippers. In front of us, we have what is essentially a closet in business class. Another thing far too few seats offer is the ability to leave while the tray table is in use. Guess what? Here, that's easy. The main design flaw, which everyone will notice, is that there are no armrests. So if you put your arm on the side console, the seat controls are right there. Go figure, I end up feeling like I'm on a roller coaster the amount of times my seat randomly starts reclining because of my arm. So our amenity kit is delivered in the most gorgeous bag. So we have a bag for our amenity bag. We have this golden sort of Air India mascot guy. I forget the name, but I'm obsessed with how this is presented. I thought Air India had 2 Me amenities. Apparently no, or not on this flight. We have Ferragamo, which is not bad either, but this is more common. A lot of airlines have Ferragamo partnerships. Let me show you the contents of this instead of just unboxing it like this. But you know, I am not one who uses this stuff, the body lotion and the lip balms and whatever's in here, but an eye mask is appreciated, earplugs, socks. Wow, sound less excited, Dan. Overall, a well-stocked kit. Speaking of well-stocked, the menus look loaded on today's flight. I also love the colorful look. Am I turning into an Air India fan? Well, hold your horses until the end because there's still a lot that could go wrong. Alright, taste test time. Virgin Mojito on Air India. Pretty good. 2 meals on today's flight, so this is the start of, I guess, breakfast at 1 p.m. One thing that Air India certainly requires is patience, and a lot of it. Of course, today's a bad day, 5-hour delay and all, but it takes 90 minutes to get breakfast all on one tray. I know the A350 galleys are really tight, so I partly blame the aircraft, but one thing we cannot blame the aircraft for is this portion size. Perfect size for an Indian auntie on a diet. Alright, so here I have the main course from the menu, the breakfast dish, tomato, upma, coconut idli, and wait, masala dosa. I don't have masala dosa, but I have the other things, I'm pretty sure. Semolina porridge, steamed rice cake with fresh coconut, but no dosa. The problem with Air India is that so many aspects of the experience are just pure chaos. So for example, here with the meals, we know another guy on board who is vegan as well. So we ordered VGML, right? But with the meal, they give you the Berkshire muesli from the menu, and they gave us the bread from the menu. You know, you always assume that every dish on your tray, maybe not the bread, but the side dishes too, are part of the special meal. So we asked the crew and she was like, yes, of course, it's part of your special meal. Then I'm like, but did other passengers get served this? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, so then it's not. And she's like, yes, don't worry, sir. Then I'm like, could you check with in the galley, please? Then the purser comes and the purser's like, oh no, this is not vegan. You absolutely shouldn't have that. It has milk. And everyone got the same thing. And I'm like, oh, so did they load something for us? She's like, yes, they did. We'll go check. Then her colleague goes and checks. They didn't load something like another side for us. There's so much like back and forth, no clear answers about anything, which is just really frustrating. Ugh, vegans, am I right? In all seriousness, allergens and special diets are extremely important for crew to understand. An airplane is not the place where you want someone having an adverse reaction by eating food they have not ordered. After I'm done, the crew comes by with what they call an apology fruit plate. What I'm beginning to realize as more and more of the flight goes on is that Air India has a lot of great ideas and great intentions, but unfortunately not everything goes according to plan. Another thing like that is the Wi-Fi, which is free, which is, you know, very good on paper, very exciting, except it doesn't seem like anyone can really connect, at least possibly non-Indians, because what's happening is that both my phone and my laptop are blocking every site as something suspicious, and I've tried to deactivate private relay on my computers, of course deactivated NordVPN, I've deactivated everything I can that should be stopping it. I've tried clearing cache, but nothing will let me through to any site besides Google, and the guy next to me is having the same issues. So it's kind of frustrating because I feel like that's not even Air India's fault. It's some safety thing when our phone providers or whatever see that we're trying to go through an Indian network, but it can't make sense of why we're in India but not physically in India, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm really no tech person, so I don't know exactly why, but anyway, nice idea. Unfortunately, doesn't really work. So, as you can tell, my illusion of Air India being fully ready to compete with the likes of Qatar and Emirates are being shattered bit by bit. That great first impression could only work for so long, right? Another spot that would be so easy to make more premium is the lavatory. Air India's current selection of toiletries have the vibe of a bargain basement closing down sale. Their soap smells like apple cider vinegar, and as someone who loves putting vinegar in almost everything, I think vinegar soap is where I draw the line. That's the extent of my criticisms for now. Luckily, all those things can be quite easily remedied. Something they do not have to remedy: this shockingly gorgeous, generous entertainment selection. Check out how many movies they have. We are still only on films starting with the letter A. I guess the soap investment went into soap operas instead. One of my all-time favorite shows, Veep, is on here. Too much good selection. So my plan for now is to lock in. We are gonna work hard. I don't work as well and as effectively, as efficiently as I do on planes anywhere else. So this, although, you know, everyone else in the cabin is sleeping pretty much, I will see you guys in a few hours.
5 minutes later.
Who's gonna tell me how effectively I'm undoing my $41 head, neck, and shoulder massage right now? Anyone? Let's ask the crew for turn-down service. In the meantime, I go change into my pajamas. Seems like large is a little small for me, or I just ate too much dosa this morning. On that note, good night, you guys. I'll see ya when I see ya. Well, hello. It has been about, 2.5 hours. I enjoyed the bed very much, although I didn't manage to sleep for a second. My body was like, sir, what do you think you're doing? It's the middle of the day, but honestly, this bed blew me away. I would say it's definitely one of the most comfortable business class beds I have ever flown in, which, I mean, I've been lucky to fly a lot of cutting edge business class products, but the combination of this seat being very soft, not having really much obstructing you by the feet, and having a very nice mattress pad really make this a good spot for sleeping. But one more thing Air India can improve, which, I love my constructive criticism, is the bells go off every 5 minutes. Seriously, for turbulence, there's an announcement and it goes ding, and it goes ding when it's turned off. Every time someone calls the crew, which for some reason is like every 5 minutes in this cabin, there's a loud ding as well, so you're constantly kept awake. I'm blaming my sleep issues on this, which isn't really the reason, but you have these constant sounds which would definitely bother me on an overnight flight, and I think, they, for example, don't have to make a loud announcement every time the seatbelt sign goes on. I order a few drinks and refresh and read a little before whipping out the headphones and watching some trusty old Friends until... Alright, it is time for the second meal, and I'm so sorry to say it, but this is really turning into a hot mess because they plopped down the tray with what was clearly some cream cheese filled zucchini from the menu. And I went, this surely isn't part of my special meal. She went, yes, it is part of your special meal. I went, no, this sounds exactly like what's on the menu. No, it's not what's on the menu, sir. You can eat this, no problem. I go, are you 100% sure? Because this sounds a lot like what's on the menu. Yes, sir, it had the listing for your special meal, so it's okay. And I go, but isn't this the same that everyone else is being served? Yes, sir, it is. So I go, well, then it's not, because it's the thing from the menu. Anyway, long story short, I ended up having to read her the description from the menu and say, does this not sound exactly like what's on there? And finally she goes, okay, let me ask my colleague. And then the purser comes to bring the main course. She goes, here's your meal, enjoy. And I go, so there's no appetizer? She goes, oh yes, there's no appetizer. To me, this is a cultural challenge when it comes to service in general, and it's difficult because they always just want to satisfy and say yes, but at a certain point, they need to be honest and not make things up. Anyway, I will dig into this interesting looking meal. Also, it took them an hour and a half to serve this meal after I ordered it. I'm just done. I want to get off this flight and not fly Air India soon again. Even though this seat is nice, all this stuff has left a really bad taste in my mouth, unfortunately. I just want to slightly hammer home one point, which is that if you follow any sort of special diet besides Indian vegetarian, or you have allergies, or for religious reasons you don't eat anything, whatever it may be if it comes to food, do not fly with Air India, because this has happened to me before in Air India. I haven't wanted to make a big deal out of it, but today it's truly been hammered home that you cannot trust the crew, because they literally have lied on multiple occasions until you have to force them to admit that what they're serving you is not right and there's been some error with catering for them to finally be like, okay, yeah, you're right. But even then, they don't care. Like, I asked the purser, your colleague told me that this was fine multiple times. If I would have eaten this, my stomach would be destroyed for several days. And she goes, yes, sir, but many vegans can eat dairy. And I go, that has nothing to do with the point. Many people who follow special diets have not eaten that food for like 10 years. So what will happen if they eat it? And besides, if someone is allergic and you have that same mentality without knowing that they're actually allergic, perhaps seriously allergic, that could cause major issues. It could even be a costly diversion for the airline. So seriously, Air India, this is actually abysmal. It's one thing to mess up the meals on both occasions, but for the crew to lie, and it's fine, domestic flights within India, do whatever you want, it's cultural, but on international flights, you need to have international standards, and this is definitely below any international standards that anyone would expect. The more I think about it, the more unsatisfied I am with how the crew handled this. For someone to insist that food you cannot eat is okay for you to eat is concerning. What if they did the same thing to someone who is anaphylactic? We fly over a lot of countries on this route that I do not want to be diverting to, let alone someone who is anaphylactic wants to be diverting to. The purser seeming completely clueless is even more concerning in my opinion. For Air India to be able to compete for connecting traffic, they they definitely need to step it up in this regard. What a stunning day in the UK. As we land 5 hours behind schedule, I'm struck by the fact that Air India didn't offer any goodwill gestures. It hadn't occurred to me before, but they didn't even offer free water or snacks at the gate, at least as far as I'm aware. Yes, the airspace closure was not their problem, but Virgin and BA were running 1 to 2 hours delayed, not a consistent 4 to 5 like Air India had for weeks. After weeks of delays due to airspace, this is no longer an extraordinary circumstance. Although the airline unfortunately isn't legally obligated to provide compensation on flights out of India, it's good practice to at least give something. After all, landing 5 hours later than planned is no small inconvenience.
Okie dokie, we made it to our hotel here at Heathrow, and the really weird thing is, the hard product was fantastic. Honestly, as you saw, it was one of the best business class seats I have ever flown. But by the end of that flight, as you could kind of tell, and as I was getting very negative and spiraling, this ended up being one of the 2 flights this year where I have felt I cannot wait to get off this plane. And it just, I don't know, I guess that says a lot about where Air India is at, although some parts of the experience are very, very good, a lot better than expected, and they are competitive. Air India has a few areas where they just have a lot of work to do, and I think they can, because most of these things are not fundamental issues besides perhaps being delayed a lot, which Air India is obviously infamous for. But at least if you have a delay, you can take care of your passengers and compensate them properly, as most good airlines would do. So that is Air India's A350. I loved it at first, then things started to go downhill, and I think now I'm just a bit like, well, it's a nice plane, but I'm not really looking to fly it again, at least not anytime soon. So on that note, thank you for watching this review, guys. Let me know how your experiences with Air India have been in the comments below. Make sure you hit subscribe. I'm not trying to be just one of those YouTubers who says hit subscribe, but you can see that I'm getting so close to 1 million. And if you're still watching at this point, I'm sure you found this video somewhat useful or entertaining or whatever it may be. So subscribing is free. It takes 1 second and it will help this channel reach 1 million, which is something I've been working on for a lot of years. So on that note, I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, as always, fly safe.
Fly safe.